Eryk, it's great to reconnect with you. I know when we last spoke with you, when you were on my show in the Rocket City, you were just about to have a huge fight, which you ended up winning and winning very impressively. And you've gone on to have a great start. I'll still say start to your career in the UFC. But congratulations on all of your success and welcome back to. I guess is it safe to say your adopted hometown of Tuscaloosa?
All right, man. Appreciate you guys having me. Yeah, I've been a resident of Alabama since 2005, so I guess I got an Alabama driver's license, so it's safe to say that I ain't going nowhere.
Absolutely not. And you've had a lot of success in transitioning from the football field to UFC. And I know you were off to a 10-0 start, and you've got and until your last fight, which was really a tough one. And I know I really admired the way that you kind of when you were, as you said, you were the visiting team in on the road for your fight just a few months ago. But talk about the start to your career in UFC, and since you've really gotten that, you see it. Yeah, I know you're an outstanding athlete, but you've really seemed to find your niche as an ultimate fighter.
Yeah, just like with football, I've devoted my life to this. The cool thing about it is I don't have to go to class. I don't have to, be a student, just a student of the game. So, I devote all my time to training and watching film about my opponents and, developing new techniques and traveling around, the world to, train with different people. And, it's been a blast.
Eryk, I'm going to ask you a question real quick, man, because you wrote on Twitter that you wanted to run another one with Lyoto Machida, but he's leaving for Bellator now. But, and you look back at that, that loss, it was, although it was a tough loss, I know you learned a lot because that's definitely a legend in UFC. And what did you learn from that fight, just fighting that fight on short notice and then being able to go the distance with him, especially somebody who's a legend in UFC?
I think that one of the best attributes of my fighting style is patience. But, I think I was a little too patient and, didn't throw enough combinations. When I did rock him, I smothered myself and started trying to wrestle and whatnot instead of stepping back and throwing more punches. So, taking more calculated risks, I guess, would be the main takeaway from that fight with Machida.
How's that fight that you look back at that Lyoto Machida fight? How does that look over to now? You going against Tim Williams, who is 15-4. How's that fight prepared you for this one coming up?
Man, I think that every fight, especially a fight of that magnitude, gives you more experience going forward. And if I went toe to toe with a guy like Machida, my confidence is through the roof. Going against a guy that, Tim Williams, who, hasn't quite done all the things that Machida has done. And, I think that, Tim Williams plays into my strengths a little bit. He comes forward. He doesn't have a lot of movement. He's very basic in his combination. He's definitely going to try and get it to the ground. So, the way I train, I'm very comfortable in any aspect of the fight, no matter where the fight takes place, and I'll be good to go.
And I know you were very diplomatic after the Machida fight because you had the only 3 takedowns of the match. He had a cut on his forehead. I know the fight stats said he held a 62-32 advantage in significant strikes, but I know now that you've had the chance to, I'm sure, watch it on film and analyze it. And did you think you really won the fight? And I mean, because it was really a tough situation. I mean, you went the distance with him, and you really look like with the 3 takedowns that you had a case to win that, despite the fact that, as you said, you were on his turf.
Man, yeah, right after the fight ended, it's hard to remember what happened in which round. So, I really wasn't sure what rounds I got the takedowns, what round I split his forehead open. I also dropped him a few times in the fight. So, it was just difficult to remember when it happened. The fight's not scored after all the rounds. The fight is scored round by round. So, I knew that he got round one because, you know, I spent most round one on my back. But going back and watching the fight, you know, I think I got rounds 2, 3, and 4, and, you know, 5 is up in the air. So I do think that I won the fight, and I think that Lyoto's demeanor and body language after the fight suggests that he thinks that I won the fight as well.
And maybe down the road, maybe he comes back to UFC and you get a chance to maybe atone for that. But what can you? I know it's you never want to lose in any kind of competitive venue, and you're a competitive professional athlete. You were a great football player at Alabama. But what can you take from that? What do you can you learn from a loss?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, pull the trigger early and often. And once you hurt a guy, you know, don't smother yourself with wrestling. Step back, throw more punches, you know, and more strikes, and you know, get him out of there. So, I think those are the main takeaways coming out of that Machida fight.
And then and it had to give you a lot of confidence too. A guy that's so established in the business, and you were a late add to fight him, and that you were able to do what you did, and really in his backyard in Brazil have a chance to win that fight. Did you gain a lot of confidence going forward for this next fight against Tim Williams?
You know, my confidence is unwavering. You know, the confidence is in the preparation for the fight. I never go into a fight unprepared. You know, my conditioning is on point. The game plan is on point. And, you know, the training, the sparring, the wrestling, striking, and jiu-jitsu and everything that goes into the fight is on point. So, you know, I know going into a fight, I'm ready for my opponent. I'm ready for that night. And, you know, I think that, you know, that's where the confidence comes from.
And now to take a look back, I remember kind of reminiscing with you about your days on the gridiron when we were on in Huntsville, about what you meant to the Alabama football program, because you were a part of a very special group of seniors who were inherited by Nick Saban and went on to be a part of the only undefeated team during his tenure, which I know has got to mean a lot to you guys, going 14-0 in 2009, and you becoming an outstanding jack linebacker. And, of course, you're on a painting here on the wall that I'm looking at right now with that big blindside sack of the Texas quarterback. As the years go by and you see what all Alabama's accomplishing under Coach Saban, winning 5 in 9 years, but knowing that you were part of the group that kind of got the ball rolling, how much pride do you have in the fact that you've been a part of what many people believe is the greatest decade in the history of college football from one program?
Oh, man, you know, it's an unbelievable feeling. You know, I think it's awesome to, you know, kind of be the catalyst in the team that kicked it off. You know, I think that when a coach inherits other players, you know, at first there's kind of a buffering that goes on. You know, the older guys really aren't feeling it. You know, he's got to get accustomed to the players, and you know, there's a lot of little stuff that goes on behind closed doors that, you know, I think that not a lot of people know about or talk about or acknowledge. And his ability to take a team that the year before he got there, I think we were 6-6, or 6-7. Then to turn around, you know, be a 500 team. Then the second year he's there, we go to the SEC championship. Then the third year he's there, we win a national championship. You know, there's not enough you can say about Nick Saban. You know, you can't argue with the man's result.
And then to take everyone behind the curtain, and how he, what was the key to your senior class buying into what Coach Saban was selling? Because, of course, he didn't recruit you guys, but you wanted to win games, and you hadn't been performing at the level I'm sure you were accustomed to. What made it? How did he get you guys to buy in so quickly and turn that program around? You know, when you think about it, it's really pretty stunning. You guys were 6-7 in 2006, 7-6 in 2007, and then the next 2 years, nearly winning a national title, and then going 14-0. What made the turnaround so quick?
I think that Coach Saban created a level of competition that just wasn't seen at Alabama prior to that. You know, I think that when Saban got there, he pretty much let it be known that just because you're a senior doesn't mean you're going to start, and just because you start the season doesn't mean you're going to finish the season as a starter. And even if you start the game, doesn't mean you're going to finish the game as a starter. So he just created this healthy level of competition that everybody had to perform in order to keep their job, and nothing was guaranteed. So, everybody was at practice, hustling to the ball, running to the ball, trying to do everything perfect, watching extra film. So, if you wanted that starting spot, the younger guys saw that it was achievable for a freshman to start over a senior. And it's just because you're a senior doesn't mean you're guaranteed to start. So, I think that, it definitely wasn't like that before.
And then your mindset was interesting because you came in as a late signee, a late addition to the roster. It looked like you were going to go to the Ole Miss Rebels, and you came to Alabama from San Antonio, Texas. You signed with the Crimson Tide. You certainly didn't have as much recruiting hype as others coming into the program. But the one thing I've learned about Nick Saban, whether you're a walk-on like a Levi Wallace, or if you were lightly recruited, or if you were a guy that's a five-star, the thing that strikes me is the player development at Alabama, and then and you just mentioned it, he doesn't seem to play favorites at all. He lets the cream rise to the top when it comes to competing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, he just does an awesome job of recruiting. He gives the guys the football knowledge, the football IQ. So, you got the best athlete, and he already knows what play is coming. The offense is fitting to run before they run it, or the highest percentage plays they might run. So you got the best guy. You give him the football IQ behind it, and then you pretty much tell them through the game plan what play the offense is going to run. So how do you beat that?
I mean, you're right, Eryk, and this is Eryk Anders, former Jack linebacker, 2009 national champion, part of a 14-0 football team, winning the SEC championship over Florida, and then winning the national title. As you've had a chance to reflect back on your career, Eryk, of course, winning the national championship has got to be near the top of the highlights. But what are your favorite memories of your time at Alabama and playing, first for Mike Shula and then for Nick Saban, and the way you were able to finish your career?
Just winning. When I first got to college, in high school, it was just like, Eryk, go get the ball. Eryk, go get the ball. Eryk, go get the ball. But I thoroughly enjoyed, watching film, learning the X's and O's, dissecting offenses, and just putting really just educating myself about football. I think I got there with a high school education, if you will, and left with a PhD in football. So, I thought that outside the physical part, was super fun. And on top of that, the camaraderie. I feel like I grew up again there at the Capstone. I got lifelong friends that I still talk to this day. So, overall, it was just an awesome experience.
And everyone's certainly proud of what you've done, in the ultimate fighting realm, and the way you've, channeled your career. And as you said, you're completely dedicated to it. Do you? I know you said you still talk to a lot of your former teammates in Tuscaloosa. Since you've made this career path, have you been able to seek out Nick Saban for advice? Has he counseled you at all on this in the way in what you've done in your latest endeavors?
Not really counsel me, but I got a chance to sit down with him and watch a little film, of fighting and stuff, and he just seemed very intrigued, and he's been keeping up with the career. So, I just think he does a fantastic job with keeping up with his players. Once they graduate or they move on to whatever it does, he's fully supportive. He loves it. He just thinks it's awesome. What I'm doing.
That's great that he's continued to support you. In the last few minutes with you, Eryk, and besides Nick Saban and of course your former teammates, who do you probably have the closest relationship with? I know you spent a lot of time with Scott Cochran, Jeff Allen, and people just go on and on about how good an athletic trainer he is. Who are some of the other staff members that you remember fondly and have a great relationship with from your time in Tuscaloosa?
Definitely Kirby Smart. Him and I, just great friends. I think it's great what he's doing over there at Georgia. Sal Sinceri is probably one of my favorite coaches that I've had in any sport at any point in my athletic career. So, those guys I've enjoyed keeping up with, Kevin Steele, and I run into Joe Connors every now and again. I just, they never had a bad coach there, man. So, their staff has always been top notch, regardless of who the head coach was. And man, they just have an awesome staff that keeps up with their players, post graduation.
And last question for you, Eryk. I know right now you're totally focused on Tim Williams and UFC 135 and on August the 25th and this fight and continuing your great run in UFC. But I know you said you've enjoyed the football and watching film and gaining the knowledge that you did under Nick Saban and becoming a student of the game. Has there been any thoughts about getting back into football, maybe on the coaching side, when you ultimately retire from the ring?
Maybe. I didn't know that I'd be fighting people, so it's difficult to say what I'll be doing in the future. Right now, I'm just focused on fighting. I certainly do have a passion for football, and that might be something I get into. My oldest son is just starting to, this will be his first year playing football, so that might rekindle a little passion for football. But once I retire from fighting, then I don't think that any doors are closed, or I just have to commit to something just now. So we'll see what the future holds.
It'll be August the 25th, UFC Fight Night 135. It's going to be at Pinnacle Bank Arena in Lincoln, Nebraska, as Eryk Anders takes on Tim Williams, who they call him, I think, the New Jersey Strangler, but I don't think I think we all believe that Eryk Anders is going to be ready for this fight and bounce back to move to 11-1 in his career. And we are very proud of what you accomplished at the University of Alabama. And I guess in a few years, maybe we're going to see your son at a Nick Saban football camp, maybe as a rising star on the gridiron.
Maybe. I don't know how much longer Nick Saban plans on, coaching or whatever, but, my son will be 9 this year, so he's looking at like another decade before he gets there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we certainly will. And before we know it, your son will be on a high school gridiron, which is wow, how the years fly by. It's hard to believe it's been nearly 10 years ago that you won the national championship at the Capstone. Well, Eryk, we thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to join us back in your adopted hometown of Tuscaloosa. Very proud of what you accomplished at Alabama, and good luck to you on August the 25th, and we know you're going to continue to rise in the UFC rankings. Thank you, sir, and good luck against Tim Williams, and we really appreciate the time this afternoon.
Hey, appreciate it, brother. You have a good one. Thanks for having me.